Curiosity versus studiousness in the medieval mind were two radically different concepts. Contrary to the modern understanding of curiosity, which is simply an inquisitive mind for the furtherance of education, for the furtherance of knowledge, for the furtherance of human understanding. In the medieval concept of things, there was a vast distinction between the curious mind, which was then understood to be the seeking of knowledge for wicked aims. A man who tried to be a better robber was called curious because he used his intellect for evil. A man who tried to be a better murderer was called curious for using his intellect to do his wicked deed. Likewise, people who are curious about all kinds of sexual sin and finding out new ways to explore sexual perversion were labeled curious by the medieval mind. This is not to say that in the medieval mind there was an antipathy to knowledge, that there was an antagonism to knowledge. The medieval mind commended study for the benefit of humankind. It commended study for the benefit of faith. It commended study for the benefit of ourselves as persons. This was called studiousness. And studiousness is clearly a virtue that was, in the medieval mind, paired with the vice of curiosity, which sought to use the intellect for evil men. We do not make such distinction in the terms today in contemporary usage. But in the medieval mind, there was a clear distinction, and so curiosity was written against and spoken against as an evil. Not that they thought the gathering of knowledge was evil. In fact, some of the most highly recommended men of the medieval age were recommended because of their learning, such as St. Thomas Aquinas, whose brilliance was beyond measure, and so he was rightly recognized and rightly commended for his virtue and brilliance in study because of his studiousness. But the curious minds, the men who devoted their knowledge for the furtherance of evil, for the furtherance of blasphemy, for the furtherance of infidelity, were called curious because they sought to use their intelligence to either further their crimes or to drag men away from the church, which alone leads men to salvation through a knowledge of the gospel in Jesus Christ. And so curiousness was spoken against, not because there was any antipathy to knowledge, but because curiousness sought to make a depraved mind more intelligent in his sin. There was a recognition that knowledge for the sake of knowledge, when it comes for evil purposes, is not a good thing. And this was a clear vice for the medieval mind that had to be spoken against.